Hello and welcome to Two Man Power Trip of Wrestling. I am your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, former AWA Tag Team Champion, of course, member of the infamous Guerrero family, Mr. Hector Guerrero. Hector, welcome in. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I want to say hello to all the fans, and if you're listening to this great podcast, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm ready to go. Let's get this thing rolling, baby.
Yeah. So, what's going on in your world? What have you been up to? Anything wrestling related?
Well, wrestling will always be in my life. I was raised in a family where my father, Gory Guerrero, was a legend in Mexico, and you cannot say anybody can in Mexico will tell you that my dad was a legend. Then he was as popular as El Santo, and even at first, more popular than El Santo until El Santo started doing movies. So
Right.
he
Yeah.
started getting popular, right? You start doing the Hollywood, well, the Mexican Hollywood thing and all that, but I had a very big influence with my father. Ever since I was a little kid, he had me doing push-ups. We'd go to the gym. We learned. I was doing judo when I was what 6 years old, 7 years old. Competing in small tournaments. I was a kid. I was a child. Uh, with my brothers Chavo Senior and Mando, which I love both of them very much. And Chavo's gone, but Mando's still alive. So Mando's a very, very, very talented wrestler, and one of the most innovative guys I ever saw on top of the ring. And I've seen a lot of guys. I'm talking about a lot of people up on the squared circle that have a lot of talent. And my brother Mando is wow, just the talent he had and the innovative the things that he would do would amaze me beyond. You know what I mean? Now my brother Chavo Senior, Chavo Classic, as you know, he was very, very, very. He was the first of us to start wrestling, and he was very precise, like my dad had taught all of us. You know what I mean? And but you can't take that away. And Eddie being the smallest one, being the youngest, like he's 13 years younger than I am, and I'm like, is it 6 years younger than my oldest brother Chavo? And Mando 4 years. So it's like it's interesting the years and the situation. But my father Gory, he was not only a wrestler, and then he moved us to from Mexico to El Paso, all legally. I'm serious because
Hmm.
you see all this happening now. We all came in legally. Even now, my dad used to visit the United States before El Paso, and one time we were coming through the border, and I was my mom's arms and little baby, and the my dad was a Texas wrestling champion, NWA, so he was well known throughout Texas, and the border patrol said, "Gory, he's too little, go ahead, just bring him in," and my dad said, "No, I want papers for him." So we all had papers. We all had, came in as alien residents, and then all of us became American citizens. So we're all American citizens now. So it's been a beautiful journey. But Gory Guerrero is the patriarch, and my mom, Erlinda Guerrero, who married my dad's biggest confrontation in Mexico. One of the biggest confrontations he had as a wrestling against. He married Enrique Yanes' sister, which was my mother, Maria. I'm sorry, forgive me, Erlinda Yanes, and she married. And they became, and voila, here you got all the Guerreros.
Yeah. Was it automatic that you were going to be a wrestler because of your dad? Like, did he say like, "Hey, you got to be a wrestler, you Chavo, Mondo"? Then you have to be professional wrestlers, or no?
No, you know what? He gave us a choice. Look, a lot of people probably may know this. Not many. Let me say, ladies, let me say it this way. Not many people may know this, but I wanted to be. I picked up music. I love music, and I played trumpet in middle school and high school, which in the marching band, jazz band. I was all of it. I did the whole thing, but I also wrestled amateur too at the same time, which was kind of tough. I couldn't blow my horn when I was dieting.
Mm.
But those are things that you gotta work through. But I wanted to be a musician, and little by little, I saw my destiny. I started, as I was in the ring, and you can see there's certain things that are God given, and the gifts that I'm a very believer in God. I believe in Jesus. He's my Lord. He's my Savior. But He's guided all my life, all this time. I'm not a religious guy, okay, because I tried a bunch of religions and they're all crazy. Jesus is a relationship, not a religion. So as I confess Him as my Lord and Savior, He's my relationship, but He has guided me through me and taking care of me through many circumstances in my life. And as I made a choice to go to wrestling, it just happened because we were so involved in wrestling. Like we had a ring in the backyard, and you know we had two rings. We had a permanent one, and then we had one that was portable. And sometimes my dad would, when the permanent one was in a different place, like we had a promotion in Juarez, so they took the permanent one away, and then they had the portable one, the one that you could take off and put apart. You know, he would, if he was disciplining us, he'd make us put the ring up, and then get us, and then make us do all kind of drills in wrestling, and then he'd stretch us, if you understand what that means.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
so so I said, what did you say you were going to do to your mother? Oh, okay, Dad. Okay, no. So Gory Guerrero pretty much had a lot of having to influence not only on all of us but even Eddie. Because Eddie was, a lot of people think he's the most famous, but no, my dad was famous. My dad was so famous in Mexico. They talk about Ric Flair the man, and I've heard from other wrestlers way before Ric Flair. When in Mexico, it was my dad. My dad was the man. He was a heel, and he was a tough guy, and he created a lot of controversies in Mexico City. And I've seen newspapers. Gory Guerrero causes a riot, and all kind of stuff. My brother Armando means arming. The way his name Mando, his name. My dad had a riot the night he was born, so they were trying to think how they were going to call him. So in the paper the next morning, it said Gory Guerrero Armando Broncas, which means Gory Guerrero arming riots. So Mando was named after my dad after that. So they called him Armando.
Wow. Nice. Look at that.
Yeah. And Chavo, we call Chavo, but Chavo is a short name for Salvador, and that's my dad's name. And my grandfather, his father was named Salvador. So Chavo Classic, he was actually the third Salvador, and Chavo Guerrero, the one that's working right now with Hollywood, my nephew, he's the fourth Guerrero. So that's a little bit of the history of the Guerreros, But then we also have, like, I got my mother. I talked to matriarch, and I'm going to tell you, my mother, she was my best critic. She could tell me what I did wrong in my matches, what not to do, what my dad expected me to do. Besides my dad too, so it was a family, and we, like, the Von Erichs have their family, the Guerreros we have our family, the Romeros have their family. I got a lot of respect for Ricky Romero and his sons, the young bloods. Oh, I loved wrestling against them. They were great guys to wrestle against. I love them. They were just good people, It's hard to hear about what happened with Mark, and circumstances like that, because it always hurts, like with Eddie, gone far too soon for us, but in heaven, maybe he's right there with glory and the glory, and enjoying what you call paradise.
It is crazy. Like if you look at the legacies of all the families, like obviously the Funks, you got the Young Bloods, the Romeros, really the Guerreros, the Rhodes, the Von Erichs. Where do you kind of classify? Where do you put the Guerreros in the in the McMahons or whatever? You know what I mean? There's so many families in wrestling. Where do you kind of put the Guerreros on that list?
Well, I'm not gonna put, oh, we're first place, oh, we're last place.
Hmm.
No, you know what? That's for the ages to come and to see and who did what. But I want to tell you something. The Guerreros, we were honest. Number one, okay. We when I started wrestling, I won my first match on TV, and then for the next 3.5 to 4 months, I lost every match. And if you understand wrestling, professional wrestling, the outcomes are controlled, and and everybody knows that now. So it's something that we used to call it kayfabe, but that doesn't happen anymore. It's everybody knows it, you know. I'll talk to you a little bit about wrestling now later, but what we had. So you're talking about the Guerreros. Well, the Guerreros, we always did the right thing. We tried to do the right thing. Uh, we we might have had our differences out of the ring, like brothers, like all brothers do. Everybody,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, disagreements and that. But when we were in the ring, we all agreed and we all gelled, and we all try to do the best thing. The best thing was to make the match. My dad always told us, "This is Hector, is just make the match and you'll make yourself." So a lot of wrestlers and Mexican wrestlers, my God, they're the worst. And sometimes the Japanese, the same thing. They're glory hounds. All they want is me, 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 and they don't think about the match, and they don't think about giving the people what they came to see. They came to see some good wrestling. Now, in the past, we didn't choreograph everything. Now they choreograph everything. I know because I go to do some. They asked me to go do some help, and I give some seminars. And I tell them, yeah, I can't wrestle the way you guys wrestle. So what do you mean? So, well, you guys talk everything out. I can't. The moment they go into the ring to the moment they come out, everything's talked. Everything's like stage stacked. I can't do that. I got to wrestle. I was taught to wrestle. Well, what is wrestling? Well, you grab a headlock. I reverse your headlock, and I with an arm bar. I go behind you, and I take you down, and then you switch out of it, and you come back up, and you try to get me on something, and that's what we call a shoot. And as far as shoot, like not shoot wrestling, but as far as trying to get on each other and try to get the best of each other, and that's where the competition came. Now, when you had to towards the end, when you had to do what the promoter asked you, because if you didn't do what the promoter asked you, he wouldn't book you. And if you didn't get booked, guess what? You're not getting paid. And he won't book you again. And then what are you going to do? So, the promoters are the ones that control. And whoever they have headed, like their bookers and, in all circumstances. But with the Guerreros, we knew that we had to make the match. So for making the match and not making ourselves, but knowing how to make the match, and then knowing that after we make the match, we'd make ourselves. That was a lesson that was taught by Gory Guerrero, my father, Salvador Gory Guerrero. So he was also a promoter, very, very popular promoter, very, very talented promoter of El Paso, Texas, and we all grew up in El Paso. So I'm really, my early life, I'm an El Paso and more than I am a Mexican citizen because I was born in Mexico City. But I was raised in El Paso, Texas, which I loved, and I went to school there and I graduated from the University of Texas at El Paso with a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. And that's my degree. I decided to get a degree when I saw how other promoters were. Okay, especially I can name you so many promoters, but you know what? God bless them in the sense that they might know the truth, so they don't do evil to any other wrestlers. So that's what I'm saying about blessing, that they come to the knowledge of the truth. Because I'm not going to say that some of them are evil, and I'm not going to bless evil, but I'll bless them to know the understanding that that there's a creator, and that we all have to give an account.
Now, when you are rocking and rolling, obviously, hitting all the territories. I mean, you are wrestling literally everywhere, even all over the globe. I mean, you're going to Japan. How are you getting booked everywhere? Is it literally just one promoter calls the other? Is your dad involved, or like how are your brothers involved? Like, how do you keep? You're going to Florida, then you're going to Mid South or Portland, all Japan, New Japan. When you're starting rolling here and booked, who's getting you booked everywhere?
Well, you're your own booker. I didn't want anybody booking me. I didn't want anybody trying to make money out of me. You know what I mean? I'm the one taking the bumps.
Mhm.
I'm the one that's right now, I walk with a walker, and I haven't had any surgeries. I still have all my body parts. Believe me, doctors see me, they see me and they look with dollar signs on their eyes because I could do so many surgeries, my back, my hip,
Right.
knees. But I've been studying. God showed me a way that there's natural things on the earth that help you, like glucosamine for your joints, and other things like other things that help your heart, and help all like pomegranate juice and soursop. It goes against cancer. People don't even know that the soursop, which is guanabana in Mexico, is an anti-cancer fruit that'll kill any cancer cells, and people don't understand that. And then like unless a lot of people have parasites in their systems, that's what they have all these problems. Parasites are causing a lot of problems, and the pharmaceuticals don't tell you about this. But let's get back to the understanding. Give me a heads up on that because I got a little bit distracted. You were asking me about, please.
Oh, just getting booked everywhere because
Okay.
you would go to Japan, Portland. I mean, you literally maybe have done like every territory. Memphis. I mean, you were everywhere.
Yeah, yes, I did. I did. Golly, I did Well, I did Mexico. I did California. I did. I'll run you through. I did Mexico, California, Texas. I did Oregon, and then we did AWA with the golly with the Gagnes. I love working for the Gagnes. I miss them so much. Greg is still alive, and Vern. Circumstances. I heard some circumstances there at the end, but he loved the Guerreros, and because they could rely on us, that they could tell us, hey, we want this kind of a match, and we get it done. We didn't have to talk it; we just did it, and that's because of the experience that Gory Guerrero had given us. But by being booked everywhere, not only AWA, and then I did Florida a lot. I'm now a Floridian, and what I'm trying to say is I did North Carolina, and you do a lot of places. I did the Northwest too, up in Oregon, and great. And then I even wrestled in a couple of times in Hawaii, Japan, and my brother Mando and I in 1974, just as I was I was almost 20 years old. I wasn't 20 years old. I was 19 years old. I was in Spain, wrestling in Spain for Heel and Esparza Promotions, and then in Spain, I'm getting influenced by French wrestlers, by German wrestlers, by all type of Eastern countries there, that they come because they would come to Spain to not Madrid, because even though we wrestled in Madrid, we were living in Valencia, and that's right in the right next to the Mediterranean. And so you got all these people coming, all these wrestlers are coming with their families, and they come to vacation, and they bring their families, and they want to get booked. So I was wrestling bull rings in Spain all over the place, and I really enjoyed. I really got influenced by the European style wrestling, and there was Englishmen. I have tremendous respect for all English wrestlers. Tony Sinclair, a good friend of mine. Golly, that was my first Japan trip. I was in with Tony Sinclair, and I got a lot of respect. You know, Chris Adams, I heard some circumstances towards the end there of his life, but when he was with me and I was in Mexico City and he was with me in Mexico City, he was one of the most drawing cards for the independent scene that we were wrestling at, and working also for Luderoth, which was the main booking office. So you know, there's a lot of things that happen, But I always like to say that I respect those promoters, and there was always every promoter that not everybody treated me right. I'm going to tell you that, and I could tell you a lot of them that didn't treat me right. But you know what? I'm not going to say anything about that. That's between them and God, because at all the times we have to give an account to God. Now, one thing I want to say: being a son of a promoter didn't shelter me from wrestlers beating on me, or that I had to win every match.
Right.
Do you understand? So I know certain people that have, they act there, but there's promoter sons, and they think that they got the world, well, that's their promotion, and if you say, I could tell you some of those people, like Daddy said, fall down. I could tell you some guy, some young promoter son that said that, but I won't say that. I'm just, it's better not to say that. But, there's a lot of circumstances that happen in the wrestling ability, and promoters look at that and they'll book you and they'll want you. Like when 1978, I did a big run in California. That was my starting program. In 78, I won the 78 All Battle Royal. Andre the Giant was there. Victor Rivera, Moondog Maine, Ron Bass, my brother Chavo. I was there, and there was other wrestlers they came in for that match, even from New York. So I had an opportunity they gave me the win, and they were pushing me really strong, and I had an opportunity to do a really good job for him in 1978. I did a lot of work against Roddy Piper. I loved Roddy.
Nice.
Roddy was very, very, very good, very talented in the ring, and always speaking to my ear, and during our matches. But I really loved him because now when he hits you, oh boy, you feel it. You're gonna feel it. That's what people gonna say. Oh, it's fake. No, the bumps aren't fake. I could show you my body, and like I said, I have doctors. They would look at me and they look at dollar signs in their eyes. You get this, you get all these, But no, I'm going the natural way. I think I'll last a little bit longer. And if not, and if I go home early to be with my Lord, I'm happy with that too. But the main thing is that you do good matches. What do you mean by good? Like, let me see. You do matches that the people around are intense, that when you're wrestling and they're getting up and going to the concession stand, and there's something wrong there. Do you understand?
Yep.
Now they got to go to the bathroom. It's a different story because you can't hold it. So
yeah. Yep.
but when they're getting up and going to the concession stand during your match, that's an interesting thing, and So, but promoters see and promoters talk, and then they want you. Japan wanted me after 1978. There I go. Boom, I go. First time. They asked me to go. And, to me, it was great because, I got a chance to I was there 4 weeks. Man, was I ready to come home. Because you get, you don't know. I didn't know Japanese, and you start learning a little bit how to say, arigato gozaimasu, you say certain things to thank you. And then I didn't even know how to go get food, So it was Stan Hansen showed us how to go get food one time because he says, we were in Japan. He said, how do you get food here, bro? And then he looks at us, come on. And so we went to the restaurant, and they had pictures of what you wanted to eat. So then Stan goes in. Now, you got to know what Stan Hansen was. He was a big, big star in Japan.
Oh, he was the man, yeah.
Yeah, he was the man. And Stan's still alive. And I if he's hearing this, Stan, I love you, man. Thank you for all the fun we had. So anyway, he grabs one of the chefs by the neck, right? He grabs him by the neck, and he says, "Come here." And he goes, "Oh, you want to go?" I don't know what they were saying. He pulled him out. He goes through the door and he shows him the picture and he says, "Me? That's what I want." And he takes it back in. And then we looked at him, and then it was Eduardo Estrada and I, because Eduardo and I was there in Japan at the same time. And he goes, "Okay, so we did the same thing." So that's, that's kind of like, we didn't do it all the time. You know what I mean? When we had the interpreters, they'd ask us and we'd get stuff, but we didn't have no interpreters. We do that.
Right. I love
So,
it.
oh, forgive me. Let me continue. That's how you get your name known, and people want you, and then they ask for you. Sometimes the promoter don't want to let you go, and that's a good sign because they see they want to make money with you. And but some promoters were abusive on hurting, like what WCW did to me. They never promised me anything, but I thought I could do something for them again, and they didn't want to. So it's all right. Everything has. They didn't last too long after. You know, they're not there now anymore. So circumstances.
Yep.
That's the way things happen. Anyway, continue.
So with that, obviously, skipping ahead, talking about WCW, I wanted to actually, just before we kind of get to WCW, I want to know about Lazertron. That was such an interesting gimmick. I loved it for the era, if you will. Who comes up with that? Obviously, we're talking about Mid-Atlantic, talking about Jim Crockett Promotions. Where does that idea come from? Such a cool gimmick, especially for that era.
Well, I've always had, even now, as before I go to get into, I'll tell you, I don't know. Sometimes we know gifts. We got gifts. We got gifts from God, and I don't know what it is. I had a gift about having children around me, and like I said, I became a physical educator, and for 26 years I taught PE, but I taught the little ones. Anyway, the big ones were too smart. They already know it. I'm talking about high school. The middle school, they think they got so many hormones going on. So then I went to elementary, but then in elementary they started changing them there too. But anyway, repeat your question again. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Lazertron. Okay, so I'm in Crockett Promotions. I saw that they weren't really not going to do nothing with me. I had done some stuff. I went in and I did some great matches with Denny Brown for the title, and then they teamed me up with Manny Fernandez. Manny turns on me and he goes with Rick Rude, and they were just not doing anything really with me. So there was a game called Laser Tag, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Hey, laser tag. So just came up with an idea. So I went to Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty was a booker there at that time. And I said, Dusty, what about we do something for the kids? And he said, what do you got in mind? And, I wrestled for Dusty in Florida, and he knew me, and we got along pretty good. He liked Chavo and I as the tag team, and we had already done that with him. So when I went to North Carolina and all that happened that I just told you, he said, what do you got in mind? So I said, well, how about let's try this. And I showed him a picture of something like space, something that's space there. And at that time you had Megatron, you have Ultratron, you have all these Tron things going on. And kids were very popular with that. So I said, well, what about Lazertron? And he said, what do you got in mind? I go, let me see what you got. And so I had drawn a mask, and he said, can you get the mask? I go, yeah, I can get it. So I had my dad get the mask. And then I started with just a silver outfit, half like a tank top with a silver tights. And then they had me, Hector, you need to put, because of my long legs, you need to put some tights on. So, and then it developed to later. But I wrestled as Lazertron, and that's how Lazertron got. And then, and then when they put the belt on Lazertron, so Lazertron becomes the NWA World's Heavyweight Junior Champion. And I did it for a long time until they just, again, look, Crockett Promotions got so good that they had two shows running a night. Okay, Vince was doing that for a while too. They did that too. So Crockett was doing it too. So, but one of the shows was usually a big, like, you go to, you go to Philadelphia, or you go to other places, like, I don't know, Cincinnati, you know what I mean? And these are the places that Crockett was flying people in, and they were using like, Luger, they were using, Tully Blanchard, all the guys that were there in that little group. But then here on the other small towns, you got Boogie Woogie Man and Hector Guerrero, which is Lazertron,
Right.
Lazertron, and we were like, they're going against the new breed, and that was we main evented many small towns, and then once in a while they give you one big town like once a week so that you can make the week. So you're not making the top dollar, you're not making this. So that was cool when Lasertron was world champion, and then when I saw that they weren't doing that anymore, and then they were just messing around, messing with Boogie and I, and then especially later on with me, I just turned in the belt. I went and turned in the belt, and I got booked into Tennessee again with the Continental Wrestling with Jerry Jarrett.
Man, it's such a like interesting gimmick that they could have probably done more with. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even like Rock and Roll Express too could have done more with them. You know what I mean?
yeah. We love, like Chavo and I. We love working with the Rock and Roll Express. Robert, and they were great. I mean, they were experienced. They knew when to come and when to put it on and when to back off and when to let us get our heat, because that's it's got a lot to do with that. You know what I mean? Uh, we as a tag team, Chavo and I is probably one of the better tag teams I've ever had. I had Eddie as a tag team partner in Tennessee. We were doing independence and we weren't doing NWA, and so Eddie was been my name. Mando and I was in California, Upper California. We did great times together, good matches. Working against John Tolos. Have you ever heard of John Tolos?
Yeah, yeah, yep.
One of the best wrestlers I've ever seen, man. I mean, he was in his 50s and he's keeping up with me, and I'm in my 20s, man, my middle 20s, and he could keep up with me, and I was amazed, man, that he could keep up with me, because you start getting old, and it's not only the old, it's the wear and tear on the body. You as a wrestler, people say, well, I'm 71 right now, and I could be better. Yeah, they say, but I'm not going to put all that metal in my body. I have my mother-in-law put metal in her body, and then as soon as she put metal in her body and she put they put knees on her, she started having all these problems, other problems. So I'm not saying I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I'd go the natural way, and that's the way it's going. Did
When
that answer you a little bit about laser?
yeah. Did you ever redo? Because I could have sworn in '97-ish you did the gimmick again, but like very briefly. Like I think you wrestled Eddie even as Lasertron.
Yes, that's when I went to WCW. Uh, they just used me. They used me as a jobber. That's what they did. They had a guy at one time, and you know what? I wrestled Goldberg his seventh match, but it was a dark match. That means it wasn't televised.
Right.
But he was so humble, and so he really wanted to work with me, and I wanted to work with him. So I go like, okay, that's great. So I really like, God, this is like a mountain of a man, He was so tall,
Yep.
so much bigger, We're Mexicans, Guerreros now. We're Mexicans, We're a little bit smaller than they are. So I was amazed at how well he took the match. Naturally, I lost for him, which is that was understood, but it wasn't on TV, and so I there's a lot of things that you think about, and sometimes I still remember a lot of things. My wife says, "You forget everything." Well, I don't forget this.
Yeah. Not wrestling. Yeah. Yep.
Not wrestling, I guess. Go ahead.
So they weren't going to really do anything with Lasertron, but they just wanted to use it on TV, lose basically, and then then use Hector Guerrero and then have him lose basically.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? And they weren't. I was asking for them for, okay, so give me a guarantee. Guarantee me his money every week, but they wouldn't. They just call me and say, okay, you're booked, and then they said they would send me the tickets, to get there, but then I had to take care of myself. Like, that's what people don't understand. Some promoters took care of everything for some people, but Well, if you were like, a jobber, or you were like, or just somebody is coming in and they didn't know you, they didn't take care of you. They might giving you a, give you a plane ticket to get there to the studios, but then that's it. You're on your own. There's a lot of jealousies in wrestling, man. There's still jealousies, and there's guys that still don't like me. So, you know what? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I've learned a lot about God. God forgives us and everything, so we need to forgive them, and I forgive them. Maybe they'll learn to have a conscience and maybe not do it to the next person. But some of them don't. They keep doing it. So sometimes they suffer consequences, and they understand nothing that what they're trying. That God's trying to talk to them.
Yep.
Trying to get them to do the right thing.
So what did you think about wrestling Eddie? I mean, obviously you guys maybe for years would wrestle each other in the backyard and stuff, but what did you think about actually wrestling him on TV?
Look, Eddie was 13 years younger than I was. When he was, 12 years old, I was already 25 in California. So, you know what I mean? He, later on, I came and I wrestled with him in the backyard. Took out the ring, and we worked out, got some understanding to know he was young and he was dangerous, like all young wrestlers that are green. But everybody's goes, I was green, I was dangerous. It took me a while to understand that you don't like, especially wrestling with older wrestlers. You got to take care of them. I mean, you lay them in. That's what I mean. You don't back off on the wrestling part, but you don't abuse them. And some wrestlers abuse, bro. I mean, they are very, very unhardy and some of them are so dangerous that they hurt people. And I could name a lot of wrestlers that like that, and they're top stars, and they were very top stars. And then, maybe then they start getting hurt and they all complain. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe you've done that the same to another. Maybe you need to be quiet and take it and learn to do the right thing. So everything comes full circle.
Was Eddie as good and smooth to you as as other people say? Because I feel like maybe they're, maybe not realizing how smooth and good Chavo, Mando, and you were as well.
Well, let me tell you, all of us were not smooth at first. Okay, so he wasn't smooth. It's everybody. Even I don't care. Even Ric Flair wasn't smooth at Flair, at first.
Yep.
They might think they are, but you know what? It's the guys. It's like with me in WCW. They give me these guys to wrestle, and then they want me to put them over. That means let them beat me, and they don't even know their ass from their head. So I'm over there wrestling with them and teaching them how to do a headlock, how to do an arm bar, how to take down, how to go behind, and they have no clue sometimes. They know okay, grab an arm bar. Oh, here, let me put your arm, because you know what? Because they don't understand it, and that's the promoter's fault. Promoters really, really are they are to. I'm sorry, my dad never did that. He never put the green guys with when they were, until they were ready. That's what I'm trying to say. And with me, he was very, very picky about me when I started wrestling. But we were already. I used to train girls in my dad's wrestling in Juarez when I was 12 years old. I was already teaching wrestling, headlocks, arm bars, how to take down, how to go behind, how to hit the ropes, how to fall, and doing all the maneuvers for my dad gave me the girls. I don't know why he gave me the girls, but I did. But then I would also work with the guys too. And so all the things that you do, like in Mexico, we do a lot of rolls, you do falling, you do all these things so that you learn how to use the falling exercises that you have to do. And so that's just kind of like what's going on in life when you're a son of a wrestler, and then that he's a perfectionist, because my dad was a perfectionist, and he was like that with Eddie. And my mom told me when they started wrestling in the back that my dad had to get in the ring several times with them because he was already very sick. My dad was getting sick early in his life. He had a hard time, like all wrestlers. Golly, you don't realize what all the bumps do. I do. I do now. Go ahead.
So as far as the Gobbledy Gooker, because we're talking about Lazertron as a cool gimmick, and obviously Gobbledy Gooker maybe not so cool of a gimmick. How did that even like come about? Where did that come from? Just seems so out there and different.
Well, listen, they I was trying to get booked, and I've told this story before. It's not the first time. I was trying to get booked when I became a gymnastics coach, and after golly, before that year of the Gobbledygooker, and I was a gymnastics coach in Maryville, Tennessee, working for Perpetual Motion, and I loved it. It was just part of me. I learned. They liked it because I could catch the kids. Flyaways off the high bar, boom, I catch him. Guerrero, we need you over here, boom. Flyaways off the rings, and I'm talking about kids doing 1.5 or something, and then you make sure they fall on their feet. You know what I mean? They do it into a pit, but after that, then they start doing it there. But you got to make sure they fall. Or following the younger ones, trying to do back handsprings, doing round the back handsprings, and back tucks and stuff like that. You gotta be with it. And so they taught me how to do that. And then later on, I was coaching too, and then I learned to coach that too. I really enjoyed that in Tennessee. But give me back to the original question you were asking me. Please forgive me, I got distracted again.
Gobbledy Gooker.
The Gobbledy Gooker. So. Okay, so I start calling. I want to call, and then I called. I knew I'm calling WWF. It was WWF at that time, and I'm calling, and I'm hearing about a lot of people, a lot of my friends, and the money that they're making and stuff like that. I said, man, well, that would be nice, And I was living in an apartment with my first wife, so I'm like, wow. Oh, by the way, I've been married 3 times. I never divorced my first 2. They divorced me. Just the consequences that they weren't right. And I'm okay. I'm friends with both of them. But my third wife is Penny, and I knew her before the first 2, and I love her very much. And we've been married now we're going to go for 25 years pretty soon. 25 years.
Wow, nice.
But anyway, let me get back to the circumstance there. So I was calling New York, and one time, and I never got through, and then all of a sudden I get through, and then I hear this voice. Who is this? And I go, Hector Guerrero. He says, don't ever call this again. And I said, who is this? And he says, I'm Pat Patterson.
Oh.
Don't call this. Don't never call this thing again. So I said, okay. And I knew that he was working as an agent and all that, and had a lot of input in there. So it was interesting because I liked Pat because he had wrestled my father back in El Paso when I was younger, and they had very good matches. And I always respected him for his matches and for his resilience in the ring, and how he did his moves and all that, But after that, I said, you know what? Screw this. I said, I ain't doing this anymore. I ain't calling them. So then I about maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later or 4 months later, I see Bruce Pritchard, and I had done a match they called me in for WCW one time, and I did a whole week with them, and I really enjoyed doing it. I wrestled Buddy Landell. I wrestled so many times, and I was hoping they were going to give me an opportunity to start. This is before Eddie. This is way back, at that time in 90. Is it 90? No, it wasn't. Yeah. And so at that moment, when Pat, I'll just go back. So Pat had said that no to me. So then all of a sudden, I'm doing that week with WCW, and that was when they're first getting started. And I see Bruce Pritchard, and he says, "Hey, Hector, Vince wants you to call him." I said, "Who? Vince?" And I didn't say nothing, you know. I said, "Screw this." You know, they treated me like shit. I ain't doing it. So my phone starts ringing. I don't know how they got my number, but they got my number. I don't know who gave it to them. And somebody gave them my number. And my ex-wife says, "Hey, Hector, it's WWF wants to talk to you." I says, "Hang up." So hang up. That happened like about 5, 6 times. I never took it. I never took it. Within maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So then one time I'm answering the phone because I had to answer the phone. And then I said, "Hello." And then it says, "Is this Hector Guerrero?" I go, "Yes." Wait, Hector, don't hang up. Vince wants to talk to you. And I go, "What? Who?" He says, "Vince." So Vince and I talked. He proposed to Gobbledy Gooker. They wanted to do something for the kids. And they had heard about me. And you know who had told them? Dusty Rhodes was working at that time up there in New York. And then I guess Dusty had plugged me that I'd be a good, it'd be a good candidate. So then they told me, you can do the Gobbledy Gooker, and then we're going to do something else with you besides that. So it's not just the Gobbledy Gooker, you do the Gooker for Survivor Series. And then they had an idea that they were going to call me the Bandito and do my, my Mexican gimmick. So I said, okay, to Vince. And then all of a sudden he says, "Okay, well, here's Pat." I go like, what the heck? They give me back to Pat, who had been so rude and all that to me. And I was all right. I didn't treat him bad or anything. I wasn't mean or nothing. I said, "Okay, Pat, what's up?" And so we made, and then that's how it got into it. It was supposed to be for the children, okay? But they did it wrong. I didn't know they were doing it in the Meadowlands. I never wrestled at the Meadowlands in Jersey, right? I never wrestled there. I had wrestled in Philadelphia. I knew how the people were there. God, Philly people love them. They're mean. They can destroy wrestlers,
Yes.
but not this wrestler. Not this guy. That was too smart for him. So I really enjoyed being at that time. They measured me. Interesting, because when I flew in to do the measurements and all that, I meet up in there's a limo for there. So I get in the limo. Guess who's there? Mark. The Undertaker.
Yep.
Yeah, he was in the limo, and hey, how you doing, man? Nice to meet you. I had seen him work in WCW, but I'd never met him, so I introduced myself. Later on, I found out that he thought that he was supposed to be in the egg, but he wasn't.
Yes.
It was the Gobbledy Gooker. So they came up with the thing, and we did it. Gene Okerlund worked so hard that the rest is history. I broke out of the egg. I was there like 6 hours inside. They had a box in there. They had all kind of stuff for me. They had even had a small little commode for me. You know what I mean? And everything. I had water. I had, if I got snacks and everything. It was interesting, but when I got into that box and the egg was on top, I'm going to tell you this because I didn't think this was cool, but these are the type of people that maybe work in that environment with WWF and WWE now. But when I was in there in that box, they had plastered all inside of it with nude people, nude girls.
Oh my God.
I'm serious. I walked in. I said, "What is this?" He said, "Oh, we thought you'd like it." I go, "No, I don't." He says, "I'm a Christian. Will you please remove all that?" And they go, "Well, we thought." "Well, I don't care what you think." I said, "Please take it out." And so they took it out. They undo that. Just, something that people don't realize that, sometimes with working with money and this and that, just some of the darkest people in the darkest situations that you'll ever come up with. But anyway, so and then I broke out of the egg after 6 hours being in there, and Gene, I broke out and I heard the boos right away, They booed it right from the beginning because they were, I guess, expecting somebody else. And then Gene, before he says, it might be the Playboy model of the year. And I'm thinking to myself, thanks a lot, because that's not good, right?
Yes.
That's not good. but Gene was trying to make it better. So that when I broke out, I heard the boos, and this and that. And but then there was kids, and I'm looking at the kids, and the kids are smiles in their faces. And Gene says, let's get this thing over, kid," and call me kid. I go, "Yes, sir." So we did the whole thing where I took him into the ring. He tried to do the things that I was doing. I was doing a cartwheel. I did all kind of a round off,
Yep.
did all kind of stuff. I hit the ropes, and you know what I heard? I heard the next day. Well, after let me tell you about Gene. The next day he was black and blue. That's what I heard from the people that work at the WWF at that time. That he had, this poor guy, he worked so hard with me, and trying to do the things that I was doing as a Gobbledy Gooker. But he's an announcer, not a wrestler. But anyway, so the whole thing happens, right, and I come back into the dressing room. Boy, you would have seen if I killed the smallest baby in the world. Do you know what I mean? Or that I done
Yep.
something. I killed a dog or something, or I did
Yep.
it. They're looking at me with disdain, and I'm thinking to myself, "Hey, it wasn't me." And my thing was flawless. You know what I mean? I did what I had to do at that time. I did all the moves and everything, but it was the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's the deal there. You know.
Did you think it was a bit like of a silly gimmick? You're a chicken. I know they love those gimmicks in that era, like Red Rooster and all those other guys. But did you
Yeah.
think that was silly?
No, remember what is it? The San Diego Chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
For San Diego Chicken. So I looked at that San Diego Chicken, and I was going to try to do some funny stuff like him, and that's what I was thinking that it was going to happen. They try to do it. We did some interviews and with all the wrestlers, and we did all some funny stuff, and we did some, to try to get the Gooker over, and so, but then they dropped the ball. I get sent home because I did like about a week of that, and no, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks, and then I get sent home, and then I'm not getting any money or nothing. They had been paying me beforehand when they first contacted me about it. They started paying me, $1,000 a week, and back
Wow.
then, not bad. So uh, uh, all of a sudden, I get dropped. I'm out of the and nobody calls me. So I made some moves, and I went to work in Puerto Rico for a while. And then when I got back, my ex-wife started telling me they've been calling you. I go, who? WWE, that they need you to come back again because you're going to do Survivor Series again. And I go, really? After all that, they just never called, never did this, and never that. Just dropped me, and now all of a sudden they want me to come back again. So you know what I did? I I didn't talk to them anymore. So then they got in touch with me one time and asked me to send them back the thing, the gear. I said sure, no problem. Then they asked me to sign a waiver on the contract that we had done. And you know what I did? I signed that too because I asked God about that. He said he didn't want me working for any obscure men. Showed me a verse in the Bible that says that. I didn't understand it at first, and then at first I said, okay, I understand that. So uh, there was a circumstance that not very favorable to me,
Hmm.
and I don't think I was given a fair chance to it. They knew my abilities in the ring, and they didn't want that. They wanted something else. Maybe they thought I was too small. Maybe I was, but I knew how to take down big men. And even when they didn't want to get taken down, I took down Luger a bunch of times, and not only him, Ray Candy, and a lot of Leroy Brown. They used to not want to wrestle with me because they said I was too small. So take them down, humble them a little bit, and then they
Yep.
understand. Uh, there's a lot of things that one learns throughout life, and wrestling's a tough business. It's not an easy business, you know. That's why that's why back in 1990 I went back to school and went back to UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, and got a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. Kinesiology is the science of the body in motion in sports. So that's what I graduated as with a bachelor. And then I got a minor in education, and because I had also done a year and a half of nursing, and I decided I didn't want to treat sick people. I'd rather do how to teach people not to get sick. So that's what
Yep.
that's what I wanted to do. And so I did. And I did it for 26, about 20, close to 27 years. And then I did gymnastics for about 6.5 years. So I've been pretty much active throughout my life doing this, teaching kids and teaching the circumstances of life, you know. And I've enjoyed every bit of it, man. I tell you what, on especially, being a years in school, there's some abuses, and I live in a woke county. Hillsborough County is one of the wokest counties in California. I mean, in Florida. But there's other woke counties too, and there's other woke states too. So it's like, they're all around.
For sure. Yep. So as we hit the wind down here, head towards the finish, what's the legacy of the Guerrero family? Because, like you mentioned, everybody always seems to say Eddie is the most famous, but your dad, Gory, obviously, is probably the most famous. So even obviously your brothers as well, Chavo and Mando. What's the legacy? Even Chavo Jr. as well.
Yeah, Chavo Jr. is great. He's now being Hollywood's got him, so he's good.
Mm,
He did that movie with Iron Claw. He was the one that did all the choreography and all that for the wrestling parts and everything. My nephew's great. Mondo, I've told you a lot about him.
hmm
Chavo's one of a kind. Chavo Senior, Chavo Classic. His. If you ever watch some of his matches, you can see the precision in his moves and everything. Mondo's more innovative, more wild and crazy. But he's innovative, and Eddie had all of us. My dad was all of us too, and Eddie was like that too. So so Eddie just hit the place at the right time at the right place.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's God given. So he was at the right place at the right time. And from the first time that he went there to WWE, and then he hurt his arm, and then when he came back again, he came back better. The same thing with WCW. He had some problems, and then he came back. He came back a whole lot better. He learned and learned to adjust to the circumstances that he needed to do to have what he had. Uh, I didn't speak to him too much before his passing. I didn't know it was a shock to all of us. I didn't like 3 or 4 months, 4 or 5 months. I didn't like the gimmick he was doing with Rey Mysterio's son. And let's
Mm, yeah.
Dominic. Let me say it to everybody. Dominic is not Eddie's son. No, Dominic is Rey Mysterio's son.
Yes.
Period. Don't. Oh, but he's not now. That was just a storyline. So all the people, they understand that, and they can copy them, and that's the truth. Now they made money. Yeah, like Vicky. Vicky made money off my brother's name and off the Guerrero name. The same with what they're trying to do now. But I don't have too much respect for WWE anymore. They did what they did. I Like I said, circumstances. Now they have a different, right. They've been bought out, so hopefully they'll start doing a lot better, and they start getting away from all these choreography, and wrestling's become a circus, man. That's what it is. It's a circus. I saw that happen in Mexico. My father told me. My father, he told me I saw wrestling matches in Mexico with my father and other wrestlers, and they were doing moves, and they were countering the moves, and they were wrestling almost like collegiate style wrestling. It is, it's exciting, with a little bit more fluency because you let them grab the headlock, but you reverse the headlock, then you reverse the armbar, then you reverse the leg drop, and then you do all these things, and that's what makes it interesting. And it's not talked about. It's not choreographed. It's wrestling. It's like playing chess. I tell that to when I go. They ask me to do. I've done some stuff like, hey, what do I do? When I do not podcast, but I do, I go train. I see training. They ask me to go do some seminars.
Yep.
Learn your craft. What's your craft? What is it? What's it called? Mike Rotundo one time we were in I like Mike Rotundo. He's a great wrestler, awesome wrestler. And he was a great wrestler in Syracuse, collegiate wrestler. I really, really admire him. Uh he was we were in the dressing rooms, and they were saying, and Dusty was giving a big speech about about bringing up the wrestling in the matches, and then, does anybody want to say something? And then Mike Thomas raised his hand and he says, remember, gentlemen, on the marquee it says wrestling.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't say
Yep.
circuit. It doesn't say no. But it's become that way, man. All these moves, yeah, they're great, but they're very, very, very dangerous too. I've seen a lot of guys get hurt really bad, and they don't realize that they get hurt. You know, me, I got hurt because of guys that I work with. I was trying to, like, one time I was working with somebody, I won't say the name, and I was on top of the second rope, and I pushed off the top third rope, and I was going to come down on a senton on the guy's neck, and I was going to lift my leg a little bit to, so I don't hit him with a full blow, so I don't nail his ass, really bad. So the guy moved, and I was going to land with my butt on his face. So I took my foot down and to push my body away, and my foot bent the wrong way.
Oh.
And I still, that's what my leg, that's not just one of my legs, but I mean, it's one of the hurts, but that started it. And then I heard it many, many times that over. So, uh, guys like that are usually, and the guy was new too. And promoters would make us wrestle those guys because, oh yeah, they were bringing in the crowd. Yeah, because a lot of teeny boppers were coming in.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about the Rock and Roll Express. So that
Yep.
Ricky and Robert had I loved working with them. They were very, very, very meticulous in what they did with us, and they knew when to stop, and they knew when to feed, and when they knew when to back off, and they knew the wrestling moves. And Robert was great too. They were both of them great. I love working with them. Uh, but these other guys, you gotta, promoters. Well, they're bringing in the kids. Yeah, but how about us? How about the guy that's got to work with them? Okay, we're the ones that got to make them look good so that they can bring in the kids, and then they're dangerous, and we get hurt because they don't know how to do stuff. I say shame on the promoters. Shame, because they don't see that. And my father did do that. That's what gets to me, is that my dad did do that. He was because he was a wrestler. Any wrestler that becomes a promoter understands that. But if you're not a wrestler and you're not a promoter, you don't understand that.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Hector, I'd like to thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it. Got to get you back on.
Yeah, man, I love to talk. But it's maybe if somebody's hearing me, and hope I didn't, like, I'm not trying to mean anybody. I'm just telling the truth.
Yeah.
They have never been treated right. Uh, uh, Now they're starting to treat certain circumstances around me. I've had people that treat me right, and I'm thankful for that, you know. And but life is life, and you continue, and you got to go on. And but if you, I had something to fall on back first God, and then God put it into me to go to school. So if I'm talking to a wrestler and we're there and you're not being treated right, maybe you need to think about, maybe getting something a little bit more secure, and think about your retirement, because you know what? I'm retired now. I love it, man. I mean, I you know what I spend my day now? I spend my day trying to heal my body, because I work out a little bit. I do my own workouts, and a little bit here and a little bit there. I learned a little bit at UTEP on rehabilitation, because I had to go through that, and that's some of the classes that I had. And so I do some of that, but I enjoy my life. I'm enjoying the Olympics right now. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed Turning Point USA yesterday. That was great. I like the game too, but boy, the Eagles, man, they just
Oh yeah, the Seahawks
they ran,
dominated. Yeah. Oh my God.
they ran
Yep.
away. They were just a better team. They were just a better team yesterday. You know,
Very true.
yeah, very, very deep. But I really enjoyed was watching the Turning Point USA. That's I seek for righteousness. I don't, a male's a male, a female's a female. There's two genders. That's it. You know, and then there's one God. There's no other God. And we got to understand that. And if you don't believe it, well, just look around you, man. It's golly, look at nature, look at the life, look at just the body, man. Just how our bodies are made and how it functions. I don't think I came from a monkey.
Yeah.
I, I
Yep.
don't. I don't. I don't think I came from a monkey. You know,
Yep.
but monkeys are still monkeys, right?
Yep. That's true. That is actually true.
Apes are still apes. Oh, but it was a certain kind of monkey. Yeah, yeah. You know what I heard? I heard that they found this nail that's supposed to be there was the theory that we came from monkeys, and then they investigated the nail, and it came from a pig.
Oh my God.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
Wow.
This is stuff that you learn in college.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Crazy.
Just wanted to let you know. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate all the time.
Yeah, and if I hope I didn't say anything wrong to anybody. If I offended you, please forgive me. That was not my endeavor. It's not my endeavor to hurt anybody. If at all, I pray for everybody to know the knowledge of truth, and that's my endeavor now.
All right. Thank you so much, Hector. We'll be in touch. Have a great one. Appreciate it.